All right, special guest today, Kensey McMahon. How you doing?
As good as one can be, given circumstances, but I really appreciate you having me on.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for doing this. And I saw your story on Instagram, read about it, and just sounded devastating. It's a horrible scenario, horrible story, and I just wanted to be able to give you the chance to kind of talk about it. It's seems to be happening far too frequently from my perspective. I know for you, this is it for you. This is like your whole life. I've had other experiences where something like this has happened to friends of mine, people I know, and so it just seems like it's happening far too often. So I want to share your story and then get to kind of the heart of how we can maybe fix this in the future. I don't know, but tell me just in terms of like going back to July last year, you're having this incredible swimming career, even up to that point in July, your swimming was going gangbusters, and then all of a sudden you get a phone call, right, and it changes everything.
Absolutely. And just to start off, I wish we were talking about me going to Olympic trials next week.
Yeah,
That was the dream, and so I'm thankful for the opportunity to share my story and share also how my faith has helped me through this last year. But yeah, it started in July of last year.
hmm
I was eating dinner. I received a phone call from a random number. I wasn't going to answer it. I usually don't just because of spam calls, and
yeah.
something told me to answer the phone, and was someone from USADA, and I was like, okay, I'm getting tested. Nothing unusual. I get tested all the time. Um, I'm about to get into my hour window, and so thought it was someone testing, and someone called me and they said, "Hey, I'm a USADA representative. We found something in your sample from July 1st. Have you ever heard of Vadadustat?" And I had no idea what they were talking about. He said, "Well, we found an estimate of 0.05 nanogram in your sample, and you're going to receive a letter and let us know what you want to do moving forward." Um,
Wow.
it was a phone call that lasted less than 2 minutes, and it completely rocked my world. My heart feels like it fell out of my chest. I called my parents, I called my coaches. I was emotional, I was distraught, and above all else, I was confused. And so after those super emotional phone calls, where I'm not even sure if anyone understood what I was saying because I was crying so much, I looked up what Vadadustat is, and I found that it was for people with chronic kidney disease on dialysis, and that it wasn't even something in the US at the time. And so that just made me even more confused about what I was supposed to do next.
Wow, hang on. It wasn't even in the US at the time. So had you done any traveling previously before this test?
Several months before, I competed with Team USA at a World Cup in Italy in May of 2023,
Mhm.
but my test was in July of 2023.
So there's no way this thing hangs around that long. So you're tested positive for a drug that is used in extreme cases, and it doesn't even exist in America at the time. And it's what you just said, 0.05 nanograms. That to me seems like completely insignificant.
Yes, and it was an estimate of 0.05 as the wording, and these tests are crazy because they can test to the billionth, even the trillionth of a gram. And to put that into perspective, because I didn't understand what those numbers meant, it's like taking a salt shaker and going like this and dropping it in the pool, a 50-meter Olympic sized pool.
Wow. Wow. That just seems crazy in and of itself. So, okay, you get this phone call, you talk to your parents, you talk to your coaches, everybody's rallying. What's the next thing we do?
In all honesty, the next day, Saturday, I stayed in bed all day. I was so confused. I didn't know what the next steps were. Of course, it's the weekend, so offices aren't open to be able to figure out what to do next. I really just laid in bed and I cried all day, and my parents and coaches kept checking in on me, but we didn't know what was next. And thankfully, the USOPC connected with me, and immediately they were like, "Hey, we can try to set you up with a lawyer. We can try to set you up with legal financial aid. We can try to set you up with a counselor or therapist to help you through this." And so that's where we took it from there. And so I applied for legal aid. I just graduated college in May of 2023. Swimming was supposed to be my job. That was the next steps. I was setting myself up really well to be able to try to swim professionally and just getting the ground going there. And so was able to get connected with the legal team who's worked on other cases. And so we just took it from there. I met with my lawyers and we figured out what those next steps could look like.
Wow. And since that day, I guess you've been in a fight, and it's been emotional for 12 months, I'd imagine now. Like it doesn't go away. Like for you, you're living this nightmare every day, hey?
Absolutely. And there's definitely been a lot of dark times, a lot of really hard days behind closed doors. And that fighting, I want to be able to advocate for other athletes and defend myself. So the fight's not over. But for the last 11, approaching 12 months, my circle that knew was very, very small. And so there were a lot of days where I would put on a brave face and try to have a positive impact on those around me, but nobody knew what was going on. And I'm so incredibly thankful for the people who did know, not only for their support and their constant love and checking in on me, but also for keeping it to themselves while we were trying to figure out how this happened and where this could have come from.
Well, yeah, like I said to you, like I feel like I'm having this conversation again, which is crazy to me. Like a good friend of mine, a competitor of mine in the past, and a dear friend of mine, Roland Schumann, at the end of his career went through something like this and had to go through something very similar where kept it quiet for a long time and then had to fight it and do all that sort of stuff. So I'm having these conversations with him, and then just recently I had Shayna Jack on the podcast, the Australian girl who has gone through this process as well, and very similar to. So to me, it's like Groundhog Day. I'm having this conversation again with somebody who's having this very unique experience, but it doesn't seem too unique. It seems like there are other people out there, and they've gone through this, but everybody's so isolated. Everybody's kept in the dark that there's no one's coming together on this and really supporting you and saying, "Hey, I went through this. This is exactly what's." It just seems crazy to me. It's out of this world.
It is. And after I made my post on Instagram, I have had multiple athletes reach out saying that they've either gone through this or that they're currently fighting this as well. And so I know I'm not the only one. And it's absolutely heartbreaking because I know how hard this year has been for myself and for my loved ones. And so knowing that other people are going through this, it doesn't make me feel any better. It's heartbreaking because I know the stress emotionally, financially, all the factors that fall into this, and it can feel so isolating because you feel like you're alone when you're going through this.
Right. I mean, look, there are clearly people out there who are trying to cheat the system, and then there are clearly people who have been put in a situation that is completely out of their control, and those two situations are fairly obvious when you run into them. Really, like they're pretty obvious. And so, like if I did a bit of research on your career and just kind of dug into who you were and what you're about, and the fact that you're even just on here talking about this publicly, like there's nothing in your history at all that would suggest that you would ever try and cheat, or the person that you are or the people that you surrounded yourself with. It's just not the case. So I guess in terms of this drug itself, let's talk about the drug itself for a second. Like what are the benefits of this drug and how would you administer it in the first place?
I honestly don't know how it's administered. When I looked it up in July after receiving the phone call, there were very, very few articles about it. Again, it not being FDA approved in the US and going through clinical trials, there wasn't a whole lot of information. Since then, in March of 2024, it got FDA approved in the US, but again, only for people who suffer from chronic kidney disease on dialysis. And so that's a group that doesn't apply to me. I'm not sure how it's administered. I don't know very much other than I know one of the initial side effects is diarrhea. And that would be a horrible thing while you're swimming to have to deal with that. And the other health effects are blood clots, stroke, death, things that no athlete wants to risk.
So why how does this come about then? Like, I know you've tested everything. I've talked to Roland, I've talked to Shana. When you go through this process, it's kind of a process of elimination. It's like, all right, I'm going to test everything that I could possibly put in my body, from vitamins to shampoos to all sorts of things. You know, you're testing and you're spending countless amounts of money on testing these things individually. It's adding up. It's costing a fortune. But ultimately it comes back, everything's negative that you could have put in your body. So like, how does this thing even get in your body in the first place? This particular drug, is there any assumptions on how it could get in?
I really don't know. And that was the really hard part trying to test everything, is that because there wasn't information, we didn't know where to look. Is it something that comes with human contact? I didn't know. Is it something that comes in food or supplement contamination? I wasn't sure. And so that's why we did go and test everything, because we didn't know where to start. We were confused about where to look. And I'm really grateful for my legal team. I think we tried as best as we can in my fight to be able to prove that I didn't take this. And so we did test, my whole open water kit, because you have to do your feeds for open water. We tested anything I could possibly think of. But the hard part is not knowing where it could have stemmed from made it really difficult to try to narrow down what to test. And so we just tried to test everything and anything. But also something that was really difficult was that I was competing in Indianapolis when the test came back positive. That's where that test is from, was from a meet in Indianapolis. And so I'm not doing any of my normal routines as far as, living in my apartment and training in my home pool. I flew to competition. I didn't go with a big team. We had only one other athlete and my coach there. And so we weren't doing team meals. We were eating on our own at restaurants or DoorDash or the Whole Foods buffet. I'm getting my coffee at the coffee shop down the street from my hotel. I'm leaving my bag unattended, my water bottle while I'm warming up. There were just so many things that were out of the norm of my normal home setting that it is really difficult to try to narrow it down.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, but that's normal living, right? Like, as an athlete, you got to go through those things. You can't lock yourself up. You can't, it's just, that to me just seems like normal living. And here we are making an example of you to say, well, you probably shouldn't have done this, and you shouldn't have done that. You should have known this, and you should have known that. Like, to me, that's ludicrous, right? Like, I've gone through these conversations with other people. They don't know how this contamination is happening. The contamination is so minute that it doesn't have absolutely any effect on the body whatsoever. So it's not like they're finding masses of this in your system. Yeah, I'm just blown away that here we are, a great young woman who's got an incredible future. You're two-time NCAA champion. You've got the whole of your life ahead of you. You've built up this incredible career. You're about to go into the U.S. Olympic trials, possibly make the Olympic team for America, and they just strip it away. And now they've come back now and just said, because you couldn't prove that you didn't take it or where it came from, they've slapped you with a 4-year ban, right?
Mm-hmm. That's correct.
Wow, that is that's crazy. I mean, there has to be a better system than this. It's just out of this world crazy how stupid this is.
I hope so. And that's why I want to continue to share my story and speak with people, because there does need to be change. And I have permission to say this, but I did speak with the CEO of USADA, Travis Tigar, and there does need to be policy change. And the way that the policies are currently written, it doesn't do anything but hurt athletes like me. And so I'm hoping to continue to offer my help in any way that I can, to whether that's to USADA or to other athletes, because I don't want this to continue to happen.
What kind of realistic change could happen here? I mean, to me, the fact that you've got 0.05 nanograms in your body just seems, it seems like that's the first change that could happen here. Like, it's so minute that has to change, doesn't it?
I honestly don't know what the next step is, what the best possible change is. This is still something that I'm learning so much about, and will continue to educate myself on. And so as I continue to offer my help, I hope that we can figure out solutions, but I don't know what that solution is right now. I'm definitely still in the processing phase.
Like you said, you have had other people reach out to you who've maybe gone through some of this stuff, and there are seemingly hundreds of people like this now. Is there a way that we could bring you guys together and you could collectively fight for change together?
Maybe that is the solution. If nothing else, I think it would show that we're not isolated in this.
Mm, mm.
Because when I got that phone call, I was like, "There's no way. Like, how is this happening to me?" I obviously have amazing support. My family, my coaches, like I have incredible people in my life, but you feel so alone in the fight, and so maybe it does take other athletes that have been in my situation, might currently be in my situation, to come together to advocate for that change. And so that's again why I want to continue to share my story and speak on this and have those conversations, because I think it can lead to change.
What is next in this process then? Like I said, you just got handed this 4-year ban officially because they said you couldn't prove that you didn't take it, or it was in something, they basically just said you can't prove that you weren't taking this thing. So it's like, what's next? Is there an appeal process at all, or is it just you have to live with this 4-year ban now?
There is an appeal process. I'm speaking with my legal team on that. But again, the finances of this is insane.
Mm.
We still don't know a source. So I don't know if my story getting out there more publicly, people might know more than I might know about this situation. So we're still trying to figure out next steps.
What do you think in terms of looking back and maybe the things you've learned from this? Is there anything you could have done differently at all in the lead up to this positive test, you think?
There's definitely nothing I could have done
No,
differently. You
no.
talked about, we can't live in fear as athletes. We do travel, we do compete in different pools, for swimming, obviously, different arenas for different sports. We do need to fly, we do need to eat out at restaurants. Like there are so many things that we can control in our sport. We can control our attitude, we can control our effort, we can control how many kicks we do off of the wall, but there are so many other things that we can't control. But we also can't live in fear, because I I I did exactly what I could have done in my control, and this still happened to me. And so I don't think that isolating ourselves is going to do any better, because we don't know how things like this happen.
And then you talk about the things that you can't control. Obviously, the story that came out recently with the 23 Chinese swimmers who tested positive for TMZ, and that was kind of swept under the carpet in some respects. It seems that way anyway. How did that make you feel? But you're going through this at the same time. Did that just add to the pain and agony?
I've heard a lot of news about anti-doping, especially in recent months, and knowing what I've been going through. Every time I read an article, it hurts, because I don't understand why this is happening, and it's been such a prevalent conversation. But I also am someone who believes that everything does happen for a reason. And while I hate the circumstances that I'm in, I think that my story can contribute to this conversation, and I hope that I can be someone who can advocate for positive change. But yeah, it definitely hurts every time you read an article, whether it's a positive or a negative article.
Do you read the articles? Like, do you get into the weeds on this stuff? Are you trying to isolate yourself from any positive or negative feedback in any way, or how are you dealing with it?
I've definitely read articles. I want to be educated, I want to be in the know. I definitely read all of the support and love that I received, on Instagram, or people that called me, and those are the things that I try to focus on. I've also read the negative comments, and as much as it hurts, to read awful things about yourself or the situation that you're in, knowing that you are an honest and clean athlete, and these are people behind a username that don't know you and haven't had a conversation with you. It definitely hurts, but I also know the truth, and I know that I am not a cheater, and I didn't take Vadadustat, and I wouldn't ever do anything to give myself an unfair advantage. So I just continue to lean towards the positive, because at the end of the day, the people who know me and know my journey continue to support me, and I'm incredibly grateful for all of them.
Well, let's talk about the positivity of your career. You know, like you had tremendous success. I mean, representing America and winning NCAA titles. I mean, talk to me about the last couple of years before this all happened, like the buildup of how your swimming was going.
Absolutely. I think it goes beyond the last couple of years. My club team always stressed, we're going to really focus on technique and continue to build you up so that you can have a steady trajectory in the sport and continue to get better. And I saw that from middle school to high school to college to into my professional career, always continuing to get better. And so I'm really grateful for my roots of where I am. But I think if you look at my trajectory, I have always had very steady increases. I've always, my career isn't any different than anyone else's. I've had best times and I've had times where I haven't dropped in a while. But if you look at my collegiate career alone, you can see that build up. My first NCAAs, I got 7th, and then the next year it was canceled. But the year after that, it was 6th, and then 3rd, and then winning. And so it has, like, I've always had that steady climb. Same thing with my long course swims. And in 8th, going into 9th grade, I made the goal with my coach. I learned how to set short and long-term goals, and I made my first summer junior cut. And from there, just continued to build based on goals and patience and hard work. And so I think I've always had that steady trajectory in my career because of hard work and patience. And I'm someone who believes that hard work always pays off, just not always exactly when you want it to. And so that's when you continue to put your head down and put the work in.
Talk to us about the hard work. You know, there is a lot of hard work, especially in distance swimming. You're going up and down the pool for many hours a day and working extremely hard. So in terms of that progression, you know, the growth that you made, the increases in you know, your results, you know, how did you get those over time? Talk to the people out there that have going through this type of thing where they're working hard and trying to make improvements. How did you find those improvements?
Goal setting is a really big thing for me. My coach in middle school was the first one who helped me really understand what goal setting was all about. It's about setting those short-term goals that help lead to your big goals. And so I learned at a young age I was going to be a distance swimmer. I have always had that endurance, and I think the sooner that you embrace you're going to be a distance swimmer, the smoother the ride, because it's definitely not for everybody. The distance life chooses you.
Yeah.
And so knowing that was a strong suit, I continued to work in every event. I swam every event every year in middle school going into high school, and then you start to specialize a little bit more. But I've always been super fortunate to have coaches where we work together, and it is two-way communication of what they feel like I need and what I feel like I need in training to be able to be the best I can be. And I think the biggest thing has been just consistency over time. How can I perform every day, whether I'm feeling great or having a really hard day? And so trying to be consistent in the times that I'm training, in my stroke count, in my sets over the course of weeks and months to be able to see those results at the end of the season.
Well, it's interesting. I mean, a lot of that same mentality is probably going to apply now, isn't it? You're going to have good days and bad days, and you're going to have to work through this. And I imagine, just like in swimming, the bad days do feel, you know, like you're pretty isolated and you're alone, and it's hard and it's dark, and it's I'd imagine it's very similar when you're going through this, right?
Absolutely. I joked with myself, I can swim a 25K. I can do anything. But in all honesty, there have been some very, very dark days. There's days where you don't want to get out of bed. My faith is something that's so important to me. And I talked in my Instagram post about how God gives you strength in the hard times, and that's been what has helped me get out of bed every day. And that bad things do happen. Bad things happen every single day to people, and knowing that bad things are going to happen, where do you get your strength from? Where does your strength come from? And mine comes from God and my faith, and it comes from the support of the people around me, the people that God's put into my life. But I've totally had to reevaluate this year. If you asked me a year ago today what I would be doing, I'd be getting ready for Olympic trials. I would be swimming professionally, and so I've worked with my therapist to try to figure out different kinds of goal setting when the goals aren't time oriented because of swimming. I've learned new hobbies. I have a couple of jobs. I work. And so my life looks very different. And there have been new people, but the people who have known me forever continue to pour into me every day.
What type of support have they offered you? And I'm not sure where the support comes from in different organizations, but maybe USA Swimming or USADA, or do they have support systems for athletes that lives have just been turned upside down?
The USOPC got me connected with a counselor right away, and I meet with her honestly as frequently as I feel like we need to, and she's been a huge help through this. After my sanction was made public, USADA offered mental health resources as well, and I think it's so important that athletes have that, whether they're going through my situation or not. I've worked with a sports psychologist all throughout my swimming career. Times where I was dropping a lot and felt great about my sport, and times where I felt stagnant and wasn't sure why my hard work wasn't showing up on race day. And so mental health is something that has always been super important to me. It's been something that I've been working on since a really young age, both with my coaches, with our trainers, with sports psychologists. And I think that's been a huge thing that's gotten me through this last year, is that grit and resiliency that's built up has definitely carried me through this.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Definitely. You're one tough person. There's no doubt about that. What about USA Swimming? Have they offered any resources for you?
I've talked to a couple of people through USA Swimming, but again, because it was all it wasn't made public. A lot of people didn't know what was going on, but Lindsay Mintenko and Stacey Michael Miller, they continued to check on me throughout the process, and if there was anything I needed, connecting me with the USOPC. So the very similar resources of helping with mental health.
In terms of the made public situation, is there, obviously you're told about this, almost a year ago now. Do they have a process to say none of this will be made public up until this point? Do they tell you when you can go public with these things? Do you have any freedom to be able to do that, or is it like you've got to be quiet?
You keep it within your circle during the process. And so while we were doing our investigation, putting together my case, trying to figure out where the source could have come from for why my sample tested positive, all of that was a very small circle that knew about it. The way the process works is after my hearing, the arbitrator had 30 days to be able to come to his conclusion. And from there, my legal team was notified, and from there, it's within 2 weeks of when USADA posts it to their website and it becomes public. It wasn't 2 weeks, it was 2 days after I learned. And so the minute that they posted it, I posted it because I wanted to share my story before someone made up another story about me.
Yeah, absolutely. Is this a situation where you were dealt harshly, or was it just basically like, look, this is what we're left with. We have no option other than to give you the 4 years, or was there a situation where it could have been time served or 2 years or anything like that? It seems like this is a very harsh penalty.
It does feel very harsh, and I honestly was hopeful this entire time, knowing that I didn't take anything, knowing that I'm not a cheater. I was really hopeful throughout this whole process. Every time we shipped something off to be tested, I was hopeful that we would be able to figure out where it came from. When we were putting together my case to be able to to present at my hearing, I was very hopeful, and I was hoping for a reduction in sentence. I was hoping for those 2 years. I've already been in this for a year because I haven't been swimming. I haven't been competing. I've been provisionally sanctioned since that phone call. And so I was hopeful that I could have a reduction. And so hearing that phone call, that wasn't the case, just felt like heartbreak all over again.
Yeah, absolutely. I bet. Well, what about obviously, the heartache of not being able to compete next week at trials? What have you got going on outside of the pool that's going to help you kind of get through this now?
Mhm. As far as getting through Olympic trials, I'm super excited for my friends that are competing. I've received an influx of support because they know my story, they know my journey, they've been a part of it, and so I just want to continue to support my friends through swimming, and while it hurts to not be there, I'm excited to be able to watch my friends and support them from afar. As far as life outside of swimming, I'm very fortunate to have 3 degrees. And so I work for the University of Alabama. I work in the College of Education, and I'm learning what it's like to enter the working world. I'm also training to become a spin instructor. That's been something that's brought me a lot of joy. The community that I have from our cycling studio is incredible. It's a lot of support and encouragement in how we move our bodies and we're working out, and so life looks a lot different now. But I've been able to find a lot of new joys in this last year that I don't think I would have come across had I not been in this circumstance.
Well, I'm going to suggest something for you, maybe for the future, with your intelligence, your degrees, and your education, and now your experience. Maybe there's a situation in the future where someone like you could be a leader, or a paid leader, right? Like somebody who fights for people just like you. Like it seems like there's a gap here where, again, all of you are isolated, all of you are kept in the dark. Then all of a sudden there's this massive ban that's put on you, your life's changed and your careers are over, and everybody goes their separate ways again, and then it repeats itself, it happens again. So I don't know, maybe you could be the voice for everybody in the future. Maybe you could be the fighter, be the face. I don't know, but
I hope that there's opportunities again. I don't know what the future looks like. I'm still very much in the processing all of this, but
yeah,
having the opportunity to share my story here and hopefully on other platforms, I hope it can lead to something like that.
yeah,
I've got a story to share. I know that other athletes have a story to share, and I hope that we can band together and
yeah.
create change so that this doesn't continue to happen to athletes like me.
Exactly. Yes. Perfect. Yeah. Create change so it doesn't happen again. And it just seems crazy that you could just live a normal life. You could be hardworking. You could have this incredible trajectory of career and hope, and then it's just stripped away from you, and you're slapped with a 4-year ban for 0.05 nanogram. Like, that's the part I don't understand the most, is like, look, if this stuff's in your system and maybe you've tested positive a couple, it's like, but it just seems so minute, so ridiculous that this can get in, and you have no idea, and then all of a sudden 4 years later, it's just done. So do you think you'll ever swim again,
I'm
compete
not
again?
I'm not sure. I'm not gonna lie, I do miss it. I don't just miss competing and figuring out how to push my body to be the best with the help of my coaches and my teammates, but I also miss the community that swimming gives you.
Right.
You create friends all over the country, but all over the world with this common love of swimming, and I miss that tremendously. And so I don't really know what the future holds yet, but I guess we'll see.
Yeah. Well, I wish there was some common sense here. I wish there was, you would look inside someone's life and realize there's got to be some sense to this, and I hope that you do get a reduction through your appeals, and I hope we do see you swim again. But if not, just thank you for sharing your story here, and I hope it impacts somebody else. I hope we can come together on this and fight for this in the future, because this has gone on long enough. Too many people, careers have been ruined from this, so it needs to stop now. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. And you talk about, you mentioned, there's no other history of positive tests. The crazy part about all of this was just how quickly it all progressed. I've been in the testing pool since 2018. I've been educated on USADA and WADA since 2016 at my first junior national team camp.
Right.
And so that whole week just doesn't even seem real, because I came off of this high of competing and being so excited for my future and where I was heading in the sport. 4 days later, I had a random at-home test, because that's what you do when you're in the testing pool. And so they came and didn't think anything of it. And then 2 days after that, got the call. And how fast the turnover was crazy to me. I usually don't receive results back for weeks, if not a month. And so I got those results back within 5 or 6 days. But then my test on July 5th, just a few days later, I didn't get that back for over a month. And that one was totally fine. And so the whole thing has just been completely mind-boggling and stressful. And I really hope that by sharing my story, I hope that one day we can figure out how this happened, where this came from, why my test showed a positive. But I also hope that I can continue to advocate for change as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, listen, I believe in you. Many people are on your side, so don't ever feel isolated in that respect. Don't feel like people are judging. There's many people who are, obviously think that this is a travesty. So I hope at least you hold that close to your chest and know that there's people that believe in you out there as well. Okay.
I do. I'm really grateful for my support, and I appreciate yours.
Okay, no worries. Thanks for doing this today. Take care.
Likewise.
All right, bye.